fiercely persecuted the church. But on the road to Damascus, he encountered the risen Christ, a man whose life was radically transformed by the power of grace to become one of the most influential voices in the New Testament. From enemy of gospel to apostle of grace, please welcome Paul. I also invite Paul to
Great honor meeting Paul. I really wish I could be like him, honestly.
Grace of God and who I am. And I'm happy to share what God has done in my life.
As always, humble. Alright, let's start with your early life. You were once known a very fierce opponent of the church. What changed everything?
I was a Jew born in Tarsus, but educated in Jerusalem under Gamaliel. There I learned to follow the Jewish law, and I wanted to please God in everything that I did. So I persecuted the church and killed Christians and put them in prison. But on the road to Damascus, everything changed. A light from heaven surrounded me and said to me, and a voice spoke to me from heaven saying, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? It was Jesus, and that moment blinded me physically, but opened my eyes spiritually.
Wow, that is so powerful. So all of this happened just in a moment. What was the reaction of all the other priests, the apostles and all the other believers in Christianity at that moment? Did they all welcome you all of a sudden?
At first they didn't believe me, and I don't blame them because I had taught so much fear. But Barnabas stood by me and he took me to the apostles and told them my encounter with Jesus and my preaching in Damascus. I preached after that, and finally they accepted me.
Well, talking about Barnabas, we all know that you and Barnabas took on long vacations to other places, and you endured so much pain in those vacations. And what is that element that drove you to spread God's gospel so passionately?
That moment when Jesus called me to preach the gospel, and from that moment I couldn't hold it in any longer. I knew that salvation was not only for the Jews but for all who believe. So the truth drove me to travel, endure beatings, shipwrecks, imprisonment, so that others could know the grace I had received.
Imprisonment? How do you endure imprisonment?
In prison, chains did not silence the gospel. I prayed, I sang hymns, I wrote letters, I saw prisoners and guards being saved. I learned by experience that suffering brings forth perseverance, character, and character a hope, and hope does not disappoint.
Oh yeah. Talking about prison, my most favorite experience of you is your experience in Philippi. You had an amazing prison experience. Please tell me about that.
Yes, so in prison in Philippi, around midnight, me and Silas were in prison, and our legs were in stocks inside the prison. And around midnight, me and Silas started singing hymns, and the other prisoners listened. And suddenly there was this huge earthquake, and the whole prison started to shake, and the doors flew open, and the stocks fell off. The jailer woke up with a commotion and saw all the doors fly open, and he thought all the prisoners had escaped, so he got scared. He drew out his sword to kill himself. But I stopped him and said, "Don't harm yourself, we are all here." That night, the jailer took me and Silas to his house, and he and his household were saved and baptized.
Wow. From a jailer to a brother in the night. That is so powerful. Talking about powerful things, something that is still powerful to this day are your letters. Your letters influence and encourage every one of us till this day. Honestly, I could be reading them a lot more. However, what inspired you to write them?
I wrote to strengthen, encourage, and correct the church. My goal was not to point people to myself, but to Christ. If they encourage you, then let them also challenge you to live by grace, walk by faith, and never grow weary in doing good.
Wow. What? Right. So, you see, my name is Paul. My parents thought that I have the same calling as you. But I don't think I'm worthy of such a call. What would you tell to somebody who thinks he's not worthy of God's call?
What I would say is that God doesn't look for perfect people. He looks for surrendered hearts. And if He could use me, a persecutor, then He could use anyone. Jails and prisons may hold your body, but they cannot hold your calling.
Wow. That is an amazing testimony of a work of grace. I'm very honored to interview you, and please have a nice day. Goodbye.
Paul's life proves that no one is beyond the reach of God's mercy. From brokenness to boldness, he carried the gospel to the nation. Thank you, Paul, for reminding us of the transforming power of God's grace.